All right, guys, so there's so much misinformation going on out there about BMW transmissions. Now, there's a few things you have to understand. You cannot do these transmissions or it will break them very, very quickly. We'll start with some other things first and we'll come around back to that. The first thing you have to do is maintain the transmission, right? It doesn't matter how you drive it, what you do to it. If you don't maintain it, you're going to start having issues. Now, it doesn't matter if it's SMG, if it's 5HP19 ZF box, 6HP26, 6HP19, GM box, it doesn't matter. Your first line of defense of not destroying that is changing the fluid. Now, a lot of these older BMWs, I don't use the ZF fluid. A lot of you squeal like hell when I say that, but I don't. There's good reason for that. For all these transmissions, I use this fluid. Let me come up here and touch that. And you see me use this literally 100 times in this channel. This is Valvoline Max Life. I can smell it already. And this is the stinkiest, nastiest fluid you could ever possibly get. But this is the multi-vehicle. I think it even used to say import on the front of it, but it doesn't anymore. Oh, forgot this lens to get a back off of it. It smells like dead fish. It smells absolutely terrible. This is a thicker fluid than the factory ZF fluid. Now, the reason why I use that to start off with, once the transmission gets some wear on it, once the valve body gets some wear on it, that's going to give you a little more consistency. It's not going to leak around those O-rings. It's not going to leak around that stuff near as easy. It's kind of like putting thicker oil in your engine if you have an engine that's got issues, right? Got some valve stem problems, got some leakies. You know, an old trick back in the day was to put thicker oil in. I don't recommend that on engines anymore. Only on certain ones we do that to protect them. But this is the #1 defense on your transmission. Now, the other misconception is if my transmission is acting up, and what a BMW does when the transmission fluid needs to be done, it'll start not shifting right. You'll go like going up to a hill, it doesn't want to downshift quick enough. Coming down the hill, it won't downshift too fast, right? And that could be the fluid, that could also be the filter. Depends on which one you have. Most of the GM boxes have this filter, right? And you can see here, it has a little filter inside this canister. And this pushes on to the transmission. And it has an O-ring there. Now, if the filter gets stopped up or the O-ring starts leaking, it's not going to shift correctly. You're going to start having issues, really bad issues really quick. And if it's a ZF box, if it's 6HP19 or newer, it has everything built into the oil pan. So you guys see me many times in here change those. You get an oil pan, it's got the filter made into it. You can't see if it's stopped up, you can't see anything. The best way to see what's happening with that, when you first get a car, if you know nothing about it, loosen the drain plug just a little bit. Don't take it out. Just wiggle a little bit, just where you get a few drops. Put it on a paper towel. Put a paper towel up there. Hold it up and look at it. Smell it. Does it smell like it's kind of burnt and nasty? You know, the problem with amber colored ZF fluid is it's not red. That's one other thing nice about this stuff, it's red. You can tell the state of it just by looking at it. ZF fluid, you can tell the state of it by smelling it though. You can tell if it's nasty. And that'll give you an update without actually taking anything apart, what the status of it is. Now, a lot of the new ZF boxes, 6HP19 and up, have the mechatronic sleeves, the little rubber seals, and those go in between the valve body and the transmission itself. When you push it up, that seals in between there. They're rubber, right? This thicker fluid goes back to that. You can replace those. Those are about $100 and some. They're not that hard to replace. If you can't access them or whatever it is, you're not sure that's what the problem is, this thicker fluid will definitely help seal those up. And this type of fluid will actually expand the seals just a little bit and reseal, right? That's the big thing. So the biggest thing is how you drive it, right? all these cars here, this X5, 1,000 miles, this X5 is about 230,000 miles. They're all run on the same transmission. But first thing we did, we got them in here, we changed the fluid. That saves the transmission, right? How often should you change it? Well, 40 to 50,000 miles is what's recommended. The next thing is, we're always careful when you start out when it's cold. The number one thing that'll break a BMW transmission or any transmission immediately, if whenever the car is cold, you get in the morning, you start it up, you're late for work, take off, slam down the gas, all the fluid's not up in the transmission yet, it's not in the torque converter, you're either going to span the torque converter or you're going to break the D drum. Or 100 other things, right? Breaking the D drum is the drive drum, and not enough fluid in it. What'll happen, it won't engage right, it'll slam, and it'll bust the aluminum drum, right? That's won't make it break. There's also 1,000 other ways it could break. Just really devastating to the transmission. I'm not saying you can't drive it when it's cold. You know, you can start it up. You could drive, just take off normally. If you're late for work, you make $400 a week. I mean, that's what most people make, and I don't know, I guess. But you're breaking a transmission that you have to take to a shop and it costs you thousands to fix. It's not worth $400 a week now, is it? It doesn't make sense. Get your ass out of bed a couple minutes early so you don't have to drive 200 miles an hour on the way to work, and take it easy in your car. I look out the window every morning. My mom leaves her work, so it's right next door to me. And I'll see her hop in it, turn the key, and take off, even when it's 0 degrees outside. And I told her, I said, you know, I'm watching you. If that breaks, we know what happened, right? But she doesn't run it hard right away. Well, that I know of. It would be broken by now if she did. So yeah, you take off in it. Try to keep it under 2.5 grand until the engine comes up to temperature on the gauge. If you have a newer car, you're not going to have a temperature gauge, more than likely. It depends on what it is. But let it get good and warm. Let it warm up. If you do that, if you follow just those simple rules, and you don't go from park to drive to reverse with it to the floor, you're not going to break your BMW transmission, right? And you see them breaking more on heavier cars like the X5, like on E65, E66, on real big cars, especially with the V8. They have enough torque and power to break stuff. So be aware of that. If you follow these steps, if you do that, most of you won't listen to me. Some of you will. Some of you are shaking your head. If you follow these steps, you will not break your BMW transmission. That's it. We'll see you later.